Right in the bed and breakfast.
The shoe one, right?
Is, you know where that is, Robin?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think it just looks different than the last time I saw it.
It's an extra set.
It's been fixed up. It has like an addition on this side with a very shallow pitch roof. It's not really shown in the photo. It extends out.
From your parents' old place.
Garland Street. Yeah. You know that fence there? I think that was Henry Biddham's fence.
Oh.
It looks like it.
Henry Biddham's house was 2 over. That's where I live.
Oh, is he still alive?
Oh yeah, he is. I see him. He lives in Laconia now.
Did he pass away?
He's dead.
Oh, at the meeting? That would be nice. The people attend, yeah.
I wondered.
When?
We all set? Ready to go? 7 o'clock. Call the zoning board of adjustment meeting to order. My name's Dick Piper, and I'm the vice chair, and I'll be sitting in for Dick Lewis tonight, who's recused himself from this action.
And I'm doing likewise.
And you're recusing yourself as well, Robin? Okay. Well, I guess Freeman and Mr. Burnham you guys are up.
Oh boy.
Do we want to take up the minutes of June 1st?
Sure.
We've had plenty of time to read them over.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes
You
of
want to look on?
the June 1st meeting.
We have a motion to approve the minutes as drafted.
Second.
Second. Freeman seconds it. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The minutes are accepted. The first and only order of business before us tonight is consideration of case 111-042 ZBA 0907101. Discussion and public hearing on a request from Michael Cummings for a special exception and variance from requirements of Article 3, Section 304 of the zoning ordinance, two-family dwelling in area dimensions, concerning a proposal to build an additional unrelated one-family attached dwelling unit in a single-family residential zoned area at 1 Keble Street, PID 111-042. And we'll open discussion. What we have here, 1 Keble Street is a non-conforming lot. It is an allowed use.
Excuse me, if I could just say something. There's nothing actually being built. The structure is already there. It's just to convert what's existing.
Yeah, we understand that.
Okay.
But the lot is non-conforming. The minimum lot size in the zone is a ½ an acre. The lot is actually 0.15 of an acre. The things we'll deal with is obviously the lot size, the setbacks, and the zoning ordinance itself. And I guess, having said that, we can open it up for discussion. All those in favor of this motion? Would anybody wish to speak?
Absolutely. Isn't the applicant going to go first? Or no?
Well, it's-
If you're in favor?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Okay. If you'd like to speak in favor?
Mr. Chair, do you ordinarily accept the application first? Presented?
We can, I guess we can accept it?
Just for the record, please. If you would, please.
Yes, it's accepted. I didn't know we had a choice.
Well, you do, but it's fully complete and ready to be.
So, Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
would you like to speak in favor of this?
Really, all I've got to say is that I wanted to use this as a on and off dwelling for myself. I had previously lived at Avery Street, and I've actually rented that out to some students. And I want somewhere where I can stay when I need somewhere to stay in town. This originally, I had made it into a one-room apartment, and Brian Murphy from the town here pointed out that it wasn't legal, so I dismantled the whole thing, and now I'm applying for permission to do it.
You had?
Yeah, I didn't realize I couldn't have an apartment in there. And when Brian told me that, I stripped it out.
How many students live in the dwelling unit right now?
I'm sorry.
How many students live in the dwelling
Three.
unit? Three.
There had been a family of 5 there. Thank God they're gone. They caused a lot of problems. And I figured I wouldn't rent to families anymore. They're just too much trouble. So now there's 3 kids in there.
Can I ask you a question? Is it a 3-bedroom house?
It actually is listed in the town as a 5-bedroom.
It's on your tax code.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
It's okay.
The area in question is, I don't know if it was originally an outbuilding or a barn, but it's a huge area over the garage.
What is the limitation on the number of residents in this?
I beg your
What
pardon?
is the limitation in the zoning ordinance for the number of residents in a house like
This
this?
is
3 unrelated.
3 unrelated.
3 unrelated.
that, yeah. Single family with 3 unrelated.
And how many, do you know how many square feet the house is? This may be on the tax card too, but I just...
I don't. Should, but I don't.
Does it say?
There is a schematic on the other side. I could just take a look at.
If I look at the schematic, the rear of that, where it says ATC, is that, oh, it says garage. That must mean garage attic, is that what that means?
Yes.
Is that where you had the apartment?
Yeah, it's 25 by 25, that area.
And was it unfinished before you?
No, it was actually a bedroom.
So if this place were listed as a 5-bedroom building, you believe that would have been one of them at one time?
Yes.
So the area was finished in the sense that the walls were sheetrocked or whatever? but
Sheetrocked
there
and
was not-
insulated.
There wasn't cooking or bath facilities in there?
Bath.
There was no bath?
A shower. Shower and sink. And toilet.
Is that what you put in, or was it?
No, that's what I put in.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that before you remodeled it, it did not have kitchen or bath
No.
facilities, is that true?
No.
Now, and one more question. So you put in a bath facility, which I guess you've taken out, but the kitchen?
No, I left that in. What I took out was the kitchen, the stove, the cabinetry, the heating.
Oh, okay, so it would be your expectation that this would be like, I guess you characterized it as a studio apartment. It would have the kitchen, and a sort of living bedroom area, and a bath.
Yes.
And do you know how many, well, I guess I should be able to tell by this thing, it's like 400
There's-
square feet or so.
Yeah, sub-area, like dimensions.
Okay, I understand.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anybody that wishes to speak in opposition? Could you identify yourself, please?
I certainly will. I'm too bad at a podium.
Absolutely.
Good evening. I'm Lynn Mitchell. I live at 5 People Street. I will certainly let you all know that I'm married to Dick Lewis, who is chair of the board, who's recused himself. So he also lives at 5 People Street. I just think that that's important for you all to know. Open about that little issue. I oppose, and there's several reasons. First of all, I think that the applicant has mischaracterized the fact that it's a full multifamily homes. I've put on a drawing for you that all the check marks here are single-family homes. The blue, obviously, is the applicant's property. I don't know. Obviously, on Pleasant Street, certainly there are a lot of multifamily homes. But at some point in the town, we've got a single residential zoning, and there has to be a line somewhere. In our neighborhood, the one next door to him, unfortunately, we are dealing with the ramifications of the fact that that is now a two-family home and has been for many years. It has 2 sets of students. It was agreed to a 2-family, 4-car lot. It is now a 3 unrelated people in each unit with 6 cars, 7 cars, 8 cars. When you allow expanded use such as this, you are increasing the use of the lot, which is way too small for what it is. It's the smallest lot in the area. So you're dealing with additional parking. You're dealing with additional use. You need a full acre, and he has, as you rightly pointed out, 0.15 acres. So it expands the use. He does, the applicant very rightly points out that he did have a neighbor, he had a family there, he had 2 families there actually last year. They were just 2 separate families in one home, and there was constant overflowing dumpsters and lots of noise and lots of, actually the neighborhood was quite worried as a whole about some of the younger children that remained unsupervised, but that's a separate issue. I would ask, in terms of the special exceptions, that you find that the proposed use shall only be allowed in this ordinance by special exception. It seems to me that the special special exception and/or the variance is going to run with the land. So whether or not this gentleman uses it for his own use this week or next year is one thing. But at some point, that's going to change, whether he chooses to change it or the new owner, whatever that may be. And the current neighborhood will be dealing with the ramifications of that in years to come. So we would ask that you find faults that the proposed use shall only be those allowed in ordinance by special exception. The specific site is an appropriate location and adequate size for use. Again, we would ask that you find faults to that. It's obviously way undersized, and again, we are going to be seeing the increased use of, he's got 3 students in there already. We already are hearing their noise, hearing their disturbances, seeing their increased parking. The first week that the students were back, there was parking all over his lawn for the whole week. Since then, there have been, on average, 4 cars. In the last week or so, I've only seen 2 trucks, so I don't know what the change is, but certainly they've got cars that cannot park 4 in a row, which the zoning ordinance requires that you be able to not park behind each other. There's no space on this lot at all to park more than 2 cars in, unless you had to park behind them. So we find that would fail in that direction. The use as developed will not adversely affect the character of the area in which the proposed use will be located. Again, this is actually a family neighborhood, and we take great pride in that. There's a new professor who's moved into the neighborhood with his young child. There's young children. There's a daycare. You know, Crystal Skinner is here. She'll speak to you about that. We have a wonderful family neighborhood. We've had block parties a couple of years in a row, and we take great pride in that. We certainly feel the impact of the students as they move in and around us and keep getting closer and closer and approaching more and more and more. We want to preserve the integrity of that neighborhood as a single-family neighborhood. The dorms certainly are wonderful places for students. We don't want this neighborhood to become really just an extended family dorm, an extended dormitory for the college. If they want to come buy the whole street, that's one thing, but hopefully they won't do that. There will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. We would ask that you find faults. Again, you add 2 units in your neighborhood, I guarantee you that in years to come, that little small place, a garage apartment, is going to have more than 1 person in there. It's going to have more cars and more noise and more trouble, and it's going to be a nuisance. The use will not place excessive or undue burden on the town services. I don't know about you guys, but the town services go beyond the water and the electricity and all that stuff. It includes the police. I already called the police on the neighbors next door to me, the 6 people and the 18 cars that they have there, 3 times in the month of September. And the police had to come out. There was one night I called and said, you don't have to come because they're quiet now. We've had vile remarks by the students that live in the adjacent buildings. One time he yelled at one of the neighbors and told her, as she asked them to please be quiet, shut up, get used to it from the students. I asked the other night some of the students in the neighborhood, please could you go inside, go to bed, expletive, deleted. So that's the kind of things that we're dealing with, that we're trying to preserve the integrity of our neighborhood so that we don't have to put up with that with our neighbors. We understand that students are going to be walking by, but living in the neighborhood and creating that kind of traffic is really disturbing. There would be no significant effect resulting from such use upon the public health. Again, I would ask that you, public health, safety, general welfare of the neighborhood in which the use would be located. Again, we're expanding that use in a too small space, and we're going to be encouraging too much parking and too much noise and too many people in one small space. In terms of the variance, I would ask, granting the variance will not diminish the value of the surrounding properties. I would ask that you find false. It absolutely diminishes the value of my property. I know right now that my property, and I'm not just talking about the economy, but the fact that this house that's next to me that was not student housing, but is now student housing, has greatly impacted the value of my home.
Ma'am, you're speaking about the house that butts Pleasant Street, that fronts Pleasant Street?
No, it doesn't front Pleasant Street. The house right next to me, which is number 3 people, and then number 1 people. So the more you encroach into this neighborhood, which is a wonderful block, and again, I'll certainly share this with you. This is the applicant's home. This is my home. This is the other home that is now 2-family that has been for some time. And it was only 2-family to family members.
And this is...
That's Pleasant. That's a great big
And that's 2-family, right?
I don't believe it is.
Okay.
That is Meg, I can't remember, what's her last name?
Peterson.
Peterson, and I don't believe it's a 2-family.
It's one family.
It's a 1-family home.
Is that the one that used to be the Minical's property?
Yes.
Okay.
The variance will not be contrary to public interest. Again, I would ask that you find false. I'm trying to keep it moving along because I know you have others that want to be heard. And I think for all the same reasons that I described to you, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship for the applicant. I think the applicant is certainly welcome to use the property himself. If he's got one other property in town, he can certainly live there. It's a single-family home. He can live there all by himself. That's fine. There's nothing that says that you have to be entitled to be able to turn your home into a 2-family home in a single-family neighborhood. The zoning restriction as applied to the applicant's property interferes with the applicant's reasonable use of the property. He can reasonably use it. No fair and substantial relationship exists between the general purposes of the zoning ordinance, the specific restriction on the property. I would ask that you find false. There's nothing, the property is being used as a single-family home. He's allowed to rent it, he's allowed to live in it, but to be able to turn it into a 2-family home, which is really what he's asking, with too many cars and too many people and too much noise and too much confusion, is, we think that there's no reason that he needs to do that in that single-family neighborhood. The variance would not injure the public or private rights of others. Again, we would ask that you find false. I don't want to be repetitive. Granting the variance would do substantial justice. We would ask that that's false. The use would be contrary to the spirit and intent of the ordinance. We don't believe that he needs to have a 2-family home in a single-family neighborhood. We're again trying to at least have some balance between the multi-family homes over on Pleasant Street and the single-family neighborhood. One of the only single-family neighborhoods in town. It has a great deal of character, a great deal of integrity. It really is what also makes Plymouth special, is still having families and community members living right close to the town. And we would ask that you deny this request. Most respectfully, I understand he would like to be able to use it for himself, but again, given that the variance and the special exception run with the land, we will be back here again dealing with the fact that it's being overextended. I've got to now go in terms of the house next door and spend town resources to be able to address the fact that the variance that was allowed many years ago is being overextended. And that's time of my life is time out of the town as well. So thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
Did you make your point very well?
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak in opposition?
I also am against it, and I think Lynn basically covered everything beautifully. Once you make an apartment, it never goes away. You can never
Would
undo
you
it.
identify yourself?
Elizabeth Minicallo.
Crystal Skinner, I am in opposition as well. I can appreciate the fact that he would like to live at the property, but he can live at the property without having rented it out to 3 university students. We all would like to have things go our way, but unfortunately, asking for a special exception and a variance to the zoning ordinance as it exists is not acceptable. 20 years ago, we fought very, very hard for a single-family zone to be made in this area of Plymouth, and it includes Pleasant Street. Pleasant Street is still zoned single-family, and many of the buildings, due to size, had been split into multifamily, and there are still, I know of 3 homes on that street that are still zoned single-family that have more than the 3 students which are allowable, which will be looked into when Brian gets back on the job. I just think that we should not be shrinking the single-family zone by special exception and variance. Thank you.
Go on.
Ladies first.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lorraine Happy. I live on Wentworth Street. And I didn't mean to bring my son, but he's here with me. I want to appeal to your emotional side and beg you, please, not to pass this. I am tired of students walking up and down my street, swearing. I'm tired of bringing my child inside, keeping him inside when students are around. If you need to say yes to anybody tonight, can you please say yes to families? Can you please say yes to your full-time residents? Can you please say yes to neighborhoods? Thank you.
My name is Frank Hinkle, and I'm in opposition of the whole thing. All of the reasons that I'm in opposition were stated absolutely perfectly. I would just say that there is a reason for implementing zoning ordinances and the zoning areas. And this is your chance to make that reason concrete. The reason is to preserve the integrity of areas in the town that were deemed to stay single family, residential, business, whatever the zoning was. This is a chance to maintain that zoning ordinance in the way that it was meant to be maintained. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak?
A few years back, the zoning board did not allow this to happen to the house right directly behind it on Winter Street, on the corner, the old Congregational parsonage. And that was a much bigger lot. You could probably put another house there, and a much bigger house. So you did not allow it then. You also did not allow it on Pleasant Street, where the hot dog guy lived. What's his name? Peter Goodwood.
Right.
You didn't allow it there either.
What's that? Yeah, that's when you start out. If there's no one else who wishes to speak, I'm going to close the public hearing portion and we'll begin our deliberation. Okay. I'll say that, and I mentioned this to Sharon today, that I was a little bit confused about a special exception and a variance on this same piece of property. I would think that we would you would go directly to the variance. The special exception, I'm not sure how that works.
It's always, in other towns, it's and this is not other towns, but that, the variance, it's chicken and egg, but the variance is definitely the first, because the lot is subsized.
Right. I did take a pretty good look at the ordinance today, and I looked up all the terms, and I tried to find all of the ordinances. And the lot's a very small lot. It's 1/1500ths of an acre. It doesn't meet the setback requirements. It's within the setback zone on the front, and at least on one side, and I don't have a good map of the property, so I can't tell you about the other side.
Is the parking in the setback zone?
I would say, I can't really say, Howard, because the vehicles pull in. The porch that you see is between, the driveway's between the next house, which is on the corner of Keble and Pleasant.
Do you have a photo?
But it's hard to tell what the setbacks are there.
Can I just ask whether you said it does or does not meet? I didn't hear what you said. It does or does not meet the setbacks?
It doesn't meet the setbacks on the front.
Does not?
Does not.
Does not.
It does not meet setbacks on the front or the southerly side.
Can I ask how you figured that out?
Well, I've been down there a couple times.
Well, you just...
The front setback is 30 feet, and if you look at, these maps, by the way, are survey maps. We paid a lot of money to get all the buildings plotted on the lots accurately. So you can take those pretty much for granted. We don't have a lot plan, a site plan submitted, so we can't really tell, but the front setback needs to be 30 feet from the road.
In order to be conforming.
In order to be conforming.
And it's not.
And it's not.
And were you able to determine anything about the other three?
Well, if you look right here, it's very accurate. This house at, on lot number 43, you can see that bump out right there. Well, that's accurate.
So that's right.
It's right on the line. Is that number 3? That's number 3 Keble Street, I believe. Okay.
I'm sorry, Lynn, I'm sorry that, on your...
My lot.
I know we closed the public, but if I could just ask.
Sure.
Which lot is yours?
My lot is right there.
Okay.
This lot is there. This is the other two-family that has the students
Okay,
in the...
that's the one you were talking about.
Yep.
You live in Henry Bidham's house?
I do. Apparently, that's correct,
Yes.
right? That's what I thought. I don't know him myself, but my understanding is he lived in my house, or I lived in.
All right, I'm sorry.
In the general provisions of the ordinance, under Article number 4, it talks about lots and yards. And it talks about 401.2 talks about existing lots of record. And it says a building may be constructed on any lot of record in any zone if the said lot is less than the minimum area required, providing. And I'm going to jump right to B. It's 401.2B. No structure shall be constructed on a non-conforming lot unless it shall have a front yard conforming to the minimum requirements of the zone. This is a grandfathered structure, but definitely we don't have enough setback there. If we jump to 405.2, it talks about change and expansion of non-conforming uses. Now, a non-conforming use is defined as a use, a building, or land which was legal at the effective date of this ordinance, or amendments thereto, that does not conform to the use regulations of the zone in which it is located. I think that lot meets. This is a non-conforming use.
Lot of record.
Okay. Under section 405, 405.2, it talks about change and expansion of non-conforming uses. Unless a variance is obtained, no non-conforming use shall be changed to another non-conforming use, and no such non-conforming use shall be enlarged or extended. And I think that covers this. I'd like to hear what you folks think.
May I ask the planner a question? Is this house, as it exists with the three unrelated individuals, is a permitted use in the zone, right?
Yes.
And so it's non-conforming in the sense that it's a pre-existing lot which is substandard in size and so on.
The dimensions, yeah. Not the
Dimensionally,
use.
but it is, at this point at least, a conforming use.
Yes.
But my impression is that what we're being asked to do is grant a variance that would essentially create a non-conforming use. Isn't that?
A non-permitted use. I mean, the conformity, and it's, because it's zone single-family residential, you're looking for two-family. And you know how our zoning ordinances are with definitions and then zoning, they don't always mesh up word for word. So what you're looking for is not, it would be and I made an error before, I apologize, because I'm so new with your particular zoning. You're looking for a two-family dwelling. That's the special exception.
Okay.
I mean, and that is the question, where do the variance, does that get triggered?
Right. And so
Because it's not outside of the footprint, or the perimeter, if that's what you folks call it. The proposal.
I believe that this house actually is a non-conforming use at this time. But it is permitted because it's grandfathered for the use that it is.
I would agree. I believe that is true, and I had to go back because non-conforming use did not seem to fit. But when you read the definition, and the definition says a use, which is a single-family residence, a building, which is the physical building itself, and that doesn't conform because it doesn't meet the setback requirements, it doesn't meet the lot size, it just doesn't conform. On land which was legal at the date of the ordinance. Whenever this went into effect, all of those smaller lots were grandfathered. I mean, that's a tough, but they didn't make people feel.
So, is it your view then that we will be expanding the non-conformity of the use?
Yes, yes.
All right, so
It would be the same if you wanted to put 10 bedrooms in the house. We could say, that doesn't meet the requirements of the ordinance.
There's also a definition for non-conforming structure, which speaks to
Yes.
dimensions. In particular, yards, density, or off-street parking, and that's right above non-conforming use. So it's
what, I'm going to ask another silly question, but what specifically is the variance that's being requested? I don't see that. I'm probably missing it, but I just...
It's, well, there, Mr. Piper pointed out more, and I must just say by way of apology on my part, and to Mr. Cummins too, this application came in when Miriam was here and transitioned to me, and it did not transition well, so we'll just get that right out there. It is for lot size, because of, it's half an acre in this zone per dwelling unit. And you're looking now at creating an additional dwelling unit in the attached garage. So that's I mean, the other issues are there, but to me, that's the first thing. Because it's a dwelling unit, it's a categorization of a big variance because of the size of the lot.
So
the variance would be to request reduction in the size of the lot.
Relief from
Relief from the lot, from the minimum
Requirements of
requirements of lot
density, right.
size, setback, et cetera. That's right.
And the special exception is for the change in use.
is for two families in a single-family zone.
Right. But under 405.2, I don't think and again, non-conforming use, I don't think it can be enlarged. You can't make it bigger in this zone. That's the way I read it.
okay.
Well, I think we have another problem, and it's already been mentioned. There are vehicles parked all over the place, per this lady here. There has to be room for one vehicle for each person in the building. And I don't see that. I've been over there, I've looked at the lot, and I believe that's smaller than you can park 4 cars.
There's actually room for 6 vehicles.
If you park them on the lawn.
You don't have to park on the lawn.
That's stacked parking, correct?
No, as a matter of fact, especially since we've cleaned the whole place up. When was the last time you were there?
About 4 days ago.
Yeah, well then you would have seen it. 2 on 2, you could park 6 vehicles there.
2 cars, 2 cars, 2 cars.
One behind the other?
And there's 3.
Nose to tail?
No, side by side. You could put 3 across from the garage door directly across to the neighbours, to the property line. There are 3 kids there. I've never seen more than 3 cars, never. I work there every Saturday with the guys. They're 3 actually really good kids. They've been working on cleaning the entire place up. We've put in new, well, not going to be flower beds I wouldn't think, but we're going to plant some kind of shrubs there. We've cleaned the entire outside and put a new porch on, because what was there was pretty bad. But to say there's vehicles parked all over the place is rubbish.
I've seen 4 cars there on a regular basis until the last week and a half. I go by there every morning on my way to work. And they are parked nose to tail, and one way over on the side, very close to the property line.
Where's the dumpster placed on this property, sir?
There is no dumpster.
Not now, but it was a year ago at the back end of the driveway, and it was...
I had a family move in that took me a long time to get them out. I should never have let them move in. They destroyed the house. I've spent to date about $7,000 renovating it.
It was technically 2 families, if I'm not mistaken.
There was technically 2 families.
Which would have been a non-conforming use also.
Unfortunately, I couldn't get them out. The problem was they were related. The 2 mothers were cousins. And we had the fire department, we had the police department, and Brian went through all this, and it's all documented.
Well, we know tenants can be delivered, so that's kind of water over the dam anyway, I guess.
Do we want to go to findings of fact? Okay. Who would like to start?
Well, I guess we would, the thing that sticks out, I guess, is that it's clearly a non-conforming lot in terms of its size, being less than a third of the, what would be the minimum lot size today. So I would say non-conforming, clear non-conforming lot size, and really very small. I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would say it's a non-conforming use as well.
Well, but a non-conforming permitted use at this point.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I would agree with that. And I don't know if it's important, but the testimony seems to be that it's historically been a single-family home. It's never been divided before.
Right. Well, you said it was a non-conforming lot, and the lot is, let's just get for the record, the lot is 15/100 of an acre. The minimum lot size is a half an acre.
It was a non-conforming lot when the variance was passed.
When the ordinance was enacted, yes. Yeah, right. It was an existing lot.
And I guess the evidence is that it's being used in accordance with the ordinance as a residence for 3 unrelated individuals. I guess this goes without saying, but there is town water and sewer available there. I'm a little interested, there was a dispute, really. There wasn't any clear conclusion about what the deal with the parking was there. Freeman, do you think that it's possible to, well, let me ask the planner, is it true that if we were to grant this, that we would require 4 parking spaces and that each of those cars would have to get out individually? They would have to be parked in such a way that all of them could get out, they could each get out. And Freeman, do you, from your view of it, would you agree that that's possible there?
No.
No? Okay.
And also in the finding of facts, it states that the applicant wants to use this as his own residence, and he stated to us that he would be staying there occasionally. So, I find that to be true.
So the finding of fact might be that the applicant's testimony was to the effect that it would be a part-time residence for him.
Yes, so if it's part-time, he said he wanted to supervise the existing tenants, but if he's not living there full-time, he cannot do so.
Tenants aren't there full-time, students.
Only living there a lot, though.
Well, we shouldn't, we need to keep this with the board at this point, I think.
You're right.
I'm sorry. Can I just get back to the parking thing? Maybe we can agree to disagree about the parking. I mean, we don't have a site plan or anything that we can really look at to determine if
we did what we had to do, if this were granted, they would need a minimum of four parking spaces. The parking spaces would have to be 9 by 19 feet, and they would have to be 15 feet, not within 15 feet of a public street and a property line. So you can't build those within the setback area. They have to be all inside of the setback. I mean,
Okay.
it's a tiny, tiny lot. It's a very small lot.
So your impression of the place, having looked at it, is that that's not feasible?
That's correct.
Well, I think we can make a finding of fact then that at least 2 of us are of the opinion, having looked at the lot, that it's not possible to create the 4 required parking spaces
Within the setback.
and within the requirements of the ordinance.
Can I just ask a clarify something? If there's kind of a variance is granted, is there any requirement for maximum parking? I understand that there's minimum. Is there anything that you would need to find about maximum parking?
That would, I can't say it would be, but I would think it would be, the setbacks would determine that.
Redetermines, yeah, it
The
constricts.
setbacks would determine. And they can't seal the percentage of sealing the land, too. You can't harden the surfaces on the land. So it would trigger a whole different set of questions.
Thank you. I'm sorry to disrupt.
No problem. Is there any other? Got a pretty good list.
Sharon, what did the town department say?
There was no feedback other than just, pro forma life safety code adherence, the proper building permit.
So we could say there was no
There was nothing of any
support
consequence.
or objection necessarily
No,
from
it's
any of the
neutral.
town departments. Who's writing this down? Me?
I've made some scribes. Are you writing it down, Sharon?
No, I've been writing it down.
Okay, I am too.
You got it on?
I don't have anything else.
I think the last one I'd like to put in is under section 405.2, the change and expansion of a non-conforming use is not allowed. And that's a hang-up for use, but that's what the book says. And it says building or use, which would mean the number of people. That's what the
I just want to
definition is.
understand what you're saying, because
I'm saying that they can't expand unless a variance is obtained. No non-conforming use shall be changed to another non-conforming use, and no such non-conforming use shall be enlarged or extended. And I think that would, if you enlarge the use, if you enlarge that residency from within or without, I say it's not allowed. That's the way I read it.
can I see that?
So enlarging the use would be the same as increasing the use.
Exactly. Exactly. At least that's what I think.
So are you saying that you believe that in order for this gentleman to change the non-conforming use or expand the non-conforming use, he should be requesting a variance for that?
Right, and he has.
But, well, I think what the discussion we had was that the variance was in relation to the lot size.
It is. It covers it all. If the lot were big enough, the enlargement wouldn't be an issue.
It's an expansion.
Okay.
But they're basically growing the use on that non-conforming lot, and they're saying that that's not allowed unless they're given a variance.
Right, okay. Well, that's ultimately our question here, is are we going to give them the variance or not, right?
Right.
Well, it's got to be an increase if you add another vehicle.
Maybe from a factual point of view, what you're trying to do is relay that language of that particular section into our findings of fact, that the ordinance says that we may not
Expand the use.
Without a variance. But ultimately, that's what we're here for.
That would require another parking space, which would be an increase in the use.
Well,
2 more, at least.
yeah, I agree with you, but I think ultimately that's kind of what we're voting on. That's the ultimate question.
Can you restate that?
Well,
The ordinance does not allow for a non-conforming use to be expanded or enlarged
without a variance.
without a variance.
Okay.
Should we read them off real quick? Why don't you go ahead and read them, Mike, and if you miss one, I'll pick it up.
Well, we'll see what I wasn't really I was doing this for myself.
Just for procedure, because I'm new at the way that you folks are doing this, you're looking at the variance criteria, and you're going through the justifications.
No,
That's where we are.
we're talking about the findings of fact.
Finding of fact, okay.
Yeah, and then we'll go, I think...
That's
we'll
fine,
go
because
through
I've got to
the-
translate this later, so.
All right, so we have for findings of fact here, the first was that this lot is comprised of .15 acres and is a clear, non-conforming lot size. The second one was that the present use of the property is a non-conforming permitted use. in the single-family residential zone with, I'm going on a little, with 3 unrelated individual occupants. The third was that this was historically a single-family home and there isn't any evidence to the effect that it was at any time anything else. And I think my fourth one was that it's being used as a residence for 3 unrelated individuals, but I just stuck that in number 2, so I'm going to delete number 4 if that's okay. I think it's combined. I said there is town water and sewer available. The testimony was that that this would be a part-time residence for the current owner. The 6th now, I guess it is 2 members of the ZBA here who have observed the property recently don't believe it's possible to engineer 4 parking spaces on the lot in accordance with the ordinance. The next was that the town planner reported to us that there was no particular support or objection from any town departments. And then finally, we have, what's the name,
405.2.
We have just incorporated the language of 405.2 from our ordinance, which states that we may not permit the expansion of a non-conforming use without a variance.
Shall we go to the criteria?
Zone. The zone, the single-family zone. That's important.
Excuse me?
The zone is a single-family zone that it's in.
We did say that in here. Yeah.
That was a number 2.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Granting the variance will not diminish the value of the surrounding properties. True or false?
I'll go first if you'd like. I'd say that's false.
The variance will not be contrary to the public interest.
What about...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is this how you go through?
Yeah, we go right down through.
False.
Oh, Robin's off. Howard. We got 4 faults.
For number 1? I'm sorry, you're going through
Number
and
1,
then
that's
the
correct.
vote. Okay.
The variance, number 2, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest.
False.
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 Are you...
I'm not voting unless I have to break a tie. Number 3, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship to the applicant upon proof that, A, the zoning restriction is applied to the applicant's property interferes with the applicant's reasonable use of the property, considering the unique setting of the property in its environment. B, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general purposes of the ordinance and the specific restriction on the property. And C, the variance would not injure the public or private rights of others.
Well, I guess I'm first. I'd say false to all of them.
False.
2.
False.
False to all 3.
Number 4, granting the variance would do substantial justice.
False.
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 The use will not be contrary to the spirit and the intent of the ordinance.
That's false.
False again.
False.
Excuse me, was that unanimous?
Right.
That's 4. So we've gone through the 5 criteria, and they've all been found to be false unanimously. And I'd entertain a motion.
Do we have to deal with the special exception issue?
I mean, I feel it renders it moot,
Okay.
because you didn't meet the variance, so the lot
Exactly.
won't carry
Yeah,
it.
that's fine, I just wanted to...
Yeah.
I'd make a motion that we deny the application for variance.
Second.
Discussion?
You know, so this man understands where we're coming from. I feel like this is just the sort of thing that the zoning ordinance is in place to protect against, really. And, you know, there's an effort in this zoning ordinance to preserve some single-family areas, and this is one of them. And I just think that when we buy property in a single-family area, we have to be aware of what the limitations of the property in that area might be. And I just think that this is just the kind of thing that we're here to protect against, essentially.
Well, if we just say something, it's my understanding that all my butters are two-family. They have at least 2 sets of people living in it, whether of which, what I think is a shame here tonight is the way the students are spoken about. A small group of students are giving this entire college a bad name, which I think is unfortunate. It's a pity there was nobody here to speak up for them.
That's really, we appreciate your thoughts, but that has nothing to do with what we're hearing
Well,
here
it
tonight.
seems to be a main point of the issue.
Well,
I didn't apply for
there are
more
issues here,
students.
Mr. Collins, and I understand your feelings, and I respect that, but this isn't the time and the place. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Variance is denied. Citizen communication. Do you have any
There was nothing.
communication from the citizens?
Mr. Byrne, did you second the motion?
I couldn't,
I think Freeman did.
okay.
Any new business?
Not that I have, it's been kind of light, very transitional. Brian is back working with us today.
Good.
So that's distracting.
Well, Sharon, welcome aboard.
Right,
First meeting
and
with the
thank you.
ZBA.
It's been tumultuous, and I apologize. And every town really is different with the way you go through everything, so please forgive me if I stumble, which I haven't.
You'll be fine, don't worry about it.
Motion to adjourn?
I lived on Pleasant Street for
Motion to
17
adjourn.
years, and my heart goes out.
Second.
Okay, wait a minute, who seconded? You guys are way too fast, okay. There's always one that jumps right to it.
Now, I wonder,
What's that?
this is,
He's on my husband's
She says those are
pool
all-
league, and he's done work for me, and I know where he lives, and I